So I'm going to read a passage from the G&A book. Basically, what page 178. It's towards the end. Towards the end of the book, and it's a good book. So this is towards the conclusion of my book, Geo-Negative Axis, and I'll read it to you. This is off the mark now. I'm not making this up. I didn't study anything. I actually was about to eat dinner. I just offered some food to the Lord. I was about to honor it, the remnants. And I said, you know what, let me make a G&A video, because I said I wasn't before, and I forgot. So here we go. It creates the content to be now objective and says that nothing is mattering. Therefore, no one can make advances, and then all have to render existence in a similar way to all, not trying to belittle or aggrandize anyone. All lives matter seems harmless, but it can do just that, of rendering indifference. If they don't matter and we accept their position to become light and just a part of light, and their constancy in the negative to become nothing, then, again, through air dispensation to finally light, through the dying process, then we can move past our false identity and get energy interaction with the Geo-Negative axis. By defining and defending the standpoint to free ourselves with limits and sometimes falsity, because the negative is setting the premise that one should prove their validity over others or earn it. So that basically has to do with what weighs us down, our ego, right? Sometimes we don't want to change, it's the ego. So if we're carrying around this ego, how is it going to help us? Oh, I'm this, I'm that, my life matter more than you, So we have to see when things are appropriate. Sometimes we have to say, hey, those lives matter. These lives matter, because they're not, some people need to hear that. It's true. So we will say Black Lives Matter. But within life, there's also an underlying principle. And that underlying principle is this, that we can be held down by these bodies, by these designations. So the more that we don't subscribe to the body, the more we can subscribe to the spirituality, and then we can get into some real heavy-duty like existence, right? Not just in the movies, we see the futuristic movies. No, we can make this planet great. We can ourselves put the energy into the world to make it more resilient than it is. It's just a matter of us, what we do. We're the humans. We're supposed to look after it. We've been given that provision. So that's what it is. And the next one, which is called G&A quality control. You see that? So I was the first one to get into quality control. G&A thus helps assure the quality control, and to what all this name rendering is really after. To base things on the negative is thus the trick to proper inception and dispensation thereafter. If we don't claim things, then they are negative, therefore allowed to be interpreted, and that is the way civilization can now thrive. It is just the case that we all gathered here in this particular time, with all undetermined lengths of life, and that is the underlying fact. That is the negative experience, and we should treat it as such to really get the quality of things and allow them to qualify themselves. So that's the idea. We have to want things to earn them, because otherwise, if people don't work towards something, if there's no goal, then it's a goalless society. Then there's no range. What's the point of it all? People are just going to live and eat things and just go to sleep, and that like very mechanical existence. So what it's saying is that we have to free ourselves from these material designations so that we can enter the soul's work, the activity of the spirit, which is the stuff that makes us, the consciousness. And by freeing ourselves from these bodily designations, we can then render what that is. If we're holding on to the body, then how are we going to know? How are we going to be able to determine what it is if we're just worried about the body always? Oh my God, this body, I need to, I need to do this for that. I need to do this for that race. I need to do this for that religion. That's not the goal. That's the understanding. So if we simply put labels on things from default thereof, we can certainly mess a good thing up. We see this with markets, how when a person owns one thing, that so many are part of, the more they own, the more we lose control and lose goodness in that thing. The one person can easily be unable to see things past themselves, in that they are being positive and not allowing system that negates himself for others, which is naturally a better way for all and himself, because the same will come to him. Through a monopoly or an amalgamated group, he is able to portray this way of life. The industries in our time have suffered, and some have become vile and volatile from this process of positive regard above all for themselves. So this is the truth here. This is what it's talking about. Negation is not about communism. It's not about giving all your stuff away. It's about actually earning it, about making a system that is fair. If your brain works well and you think of something and it works, you should be rewarded. That's a fair society. So we have to make a society like that, where the doors are open for people to earn things fairly so we can see greatness. How was Michael Jordan greatness? Because the doors were open. He saw a time changing where black people were now being accepted, a lot more in society, and things were becoming around for them, and the 80s and then in the 90s, and we saw him, he could take off, because he was a star like that. So it's a similar thing. There was something to work for. It's not just candy coated. They want to make everything candy coated so that it just serves one person. So it says, the many parts of the more they own, the more we lose control. So it says, we see this with the markets, right? So they can mess up good things. So the more, it's saying, the more that people are focusing on the identity, the idol of it, what it is, and not the quality of it, right? Where it comes from, how did it get here, who did it, how are they making it? The more we're just worrying about, it's this label, it's for those people, then we're going to lose the control. We're going to lose the greatness of things. That's what it's saying. So the more that we negate and we want to do things for others, the more they will be better. That's natural. That's a natural inclination, we call it. So if you want to naturally be inclined towards yourself, most of the time you're going to make stuff that's only good for you. If you go further in your development and you make things that are good for everybody, and you think about the whole, then you have a chance to make something that is really needed. Just like recently I figured out I'm going to make a hat that blocks all the rays. Right? It's so needed. Right now we need hats. It's summertime. People want a hat, cover their face a little bit. So, and on top of that, what else is needed? Something to block these rays, because the EMF, they even if it's not somebody intruding in your mind with some computers or whatever, still the rays, when you're on the phone, it hits you. You feel dizzy after, so there's many reasons that it's needed. A good hat that blocks the rays, and I have some coats. So that's how you got to think. See, right? I'm thinking about others. I'm thinking, how can myself block it and how do others? So that's kind of the formula that's talking about. Quality control has to do with what people really need and how to be useful to the whole, not just think about how to dominate or manipulate, because that becomes selfish. That becomes your positive regard. I want to be positive. Sometimes people think positive, but also that positive could be very selfish, right? A guy, right, or a girl, or somebody you work with could be so domineering on you in the workplace or wherever, and that could be totally because their positive regard. So for them, their positivity is very selfish. Now, if they negated their self for the company and for that person, they wouldn't feel squirmish. They wouldn't feel like, oh, I'm inhibited by this. So that's the idea. How to watch out for quality control by using negation, by being selfless. That's the overall understanding. So I leave you to that, and that's a little G&A understanding about how to, and it's coincidence, right? We saw All Lives Matter. That's a big topic recently, right? So Black Lives Matter, right? So but that's the idea. We have to see where that fits in holistically as well, because if we just run along, and yeah, we need to call it out when it's needed, but also we have to understand the underlying principle, because then it won't be used as a weapon against others. Okay, that's the idea. All right, thank you.